YouTube connected. Listwithelizabeth.com. Status connected. Facebook Live connected. Rumble connected. Twitter X connected. LinkedIn connected. This is the move. We are cleared to go live. Send the signal to the studio and go live.
List with Elizabeth show, ready to go live in 3, 2.
When you think selling and buying a home,
when I think real estate, I think List with Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Kline.
Elizabeth Ann Kline. And here is the host of the List with Elizabeth show, Elizabeth Kline.
Hello, everybody. I am Elizabeth Ann Kline, host of the List with Elizabeth show. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. I really appreciate everyone who has commenting on the show, letting other folks know about the show. Please keep all of that going. It keeps me motivated and lets me know what you all want to hear about out there in the world of real estate. I am a realtor in Northern Virginia, helping buyers buy and sellers sell residential property all over the Northern Virginia area. Love what I do. I have a great team of specialists behind me. And the number one tip I can give to you if you are looking to buy or sell a home is get a professional group of folks behind you, guiding you every step of the way. There's so many twists and turns in this process that you really don't know what's behind the next corner. So make sure you have someone good on your side. If you're not in the Northern Virginia area and you would like a referral agent, please reach out to me. I'm happy to do some research and connect you with one of our top agents all across the country through our National Agent Referral Network. You can see our little poster there. Thank you to my producer in the back who does all the hard work on the show. 703-829-LIST. Always call and get in touch with me. Please feel free to subscribe. And today we are going to talk about some juicy stuff. I'm very excited for today's show. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is how when you buy or sell a home, there can be issues that come up that are unexpected along the lines of title fraud, potential forgery. Could it happen to you? Does this stuff actually happen? What can happen in the real estate world? Because I think sometimes when we hear these words, fraud or forgery, you think of a big Hollywood movie and, Tom Cruise, and there's bank robbers and there's all this stuff going on. But truly every single day in our little peaceful world of real estate, these things can happen and do happen. And my guest today is going to give us an inside look onto some of the occurrences that she's had to deal with and things that you as a buyer or as a seller should be aware of if you are going to be buying or selling residential real estate. So let's bring on our guest, Shauna Glatz. She is with Cardinal Title Group. Hi, Shauna. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm fantastic. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your super busy day to be with us. Shauna and I have definitely done some transactions before in the past. And I remember, Shauna, that you don't even know this. There was one day I was in Denine's office and she's like, I've been on and off the phone with Shauna like 20 times today. She's going to kill me if I call her again. But we had issues going on with this file, and this is real life, right? These are how these issues get worked out, is behind the scenes. So we do try to take the stress off of our clients, off of our buyers, or off of our sellers, and work through all of these things on the back end of the transaction, but let's bring that to the forefront today and share kind of, your everyday in and out and your experience with this topic. But first of all, just please feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been in your position, what you do with Cardinal Title Group, and we'll just start with that.
Absolutely. I've been with Cardinal Titles since March. But prior to that, I've been in this industry almost 20 years. Makes me feel old, but that's true. And I've done every step of the process. Here at Cardinal, I'm one of the attorneys that sit in Chantilly. And like Elizabeth said, if there's an issue on a file, I'm here to help figure out what we can do to clear it, reviewing the deed, and sometimes you'll see me at settlement as well.
Perfect. Awesome. So, producer, if you want to put up one of our first slides here, I got this really cool email from Samson Properties in regards to this topic. And I thought, gosh, what a great show to really share with everybody. So one of the things we just want to touch on is, what is the financial impact of fraud and forgery on title insurers? And if you can just back up for a minute, Shauna, and explain, what is title insurance? Who are the title insurers? And then if something were to happen, how that does impact them.
Absolutely. So title insurance is a policy that if you are getting a loan at settlement, then you're going to buy a lender's title policy, and that protects your lender's interest. You're encouraged to buy an owner's title insurance policy. This protects your interest in the title to the property, meaning against fraud, forgery, somebody from the past that is a missed heir, anyone that has a right to title for your property, that could sue you. And sometimes it's not a legitimate lawsuit, but you're still going to have to fight that if somebody does try to sue you for it.
So when I'm buying a house, I don't think about these things, right? I just think of, I'm going to buy my house, I'm moving, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But you're sitting on the back office going, okay, let me look. So what exactly do? You go through the chain of title, right? Can you explain, just like very basic terms, kind of how you try to prevent that from happening?
Absolutely. So we pull a 60-year search, or we go back to the builder deed.
Go 60 years.
Yes.
Okay. That's significant.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's going to give us it's number one, we need to see every deed. So either from when that lot and block was created, or from if it's a really old house from 60 years ago, who owned it.
Okay.
And we need to make sure that the seller, and the buyer of each transaction is the following seller, or something in that deed explains why they're not, somebody is deceased and it's an estate, or, we need to be able to follow the chain of title to make sure that there is no break, like that somebody hasn't forged, or there's an explanation as to why this person is now selling this house.
So I recently had a transaction where my buyers were alerted that their sellers actually their transaction wasn't done properly. So when the sellers bought the property, so just the transaction right before it, there should have been two people signing off on the deed, a husband and a wife, but it was only the husband.
Yeah.
And so we're getting a phone call going, not really sure this house transaction can even go through. There's an issue with the chain of title. What are some real life examples that maybe you have run into with this?
Absolutely, something like that, where they just didn't have everyone sign, and then we're not sure if that person was deceased, and we have to either go to the title company prior, and do some sort of remedial, action to make sure everything is clear. We've also had where there are heirs that didn't all sign. We've had where it's an LLC and it's not clear that that was the actual member who should have signed. Or LLCs now, a lot of times their members are trusts, and all of that wasn't taken care of. Sometimes it'll be an LLC with the sole member, another LLC with that member of that LLC is a trust. So you have to make sure everything, all I's are dotted, T's are crossed, because you could legally not own your property.
So really the onus of responsibility is on the title company to make sure this is being done properly. And if it's not, really it falls on the past title companies. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, if you don't have an owner's policy or some way to insure you, then you're suing that past title company. And we also find a lot of title companies, the smaller ones, go out of business. So then you're in,
No.
you really don't have recourse.
So Shauna, what you're talking about, if when buyers, I'm talking to you right now, when you're buying a house, you have an option at settlement to buy something called title insurance. And this is what Shauna's talking about. If you don't buy it and then something comes up down the road, you personally are the ones that have to deal with the issue and potentially sue the past title company. And if they've gone out of business, then what? So as an agent, I am always encouraged to let our buyer clients know that these insurance policies are very important. It's a one-time purchase. It's not something you buy every year like all of your other insurance. You just buy it once, and you buy it when you're purchasing your home. And these things do happen. So just like Shauna's saying, like, so how many, I mean, you can just speak from your personal experience, but so how many of these are done correctly and how many need fixing or errors? Like, is it 1 in 20, 1 in 10, 1 in 100? I don't even know.
So I might have a skewed view because I get all the problem files.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
give us all the nightmares.
right. So people come to me because we need to remedy something.
Right.
So the ones that go smoothly, I kind of, so I feel like it happens often.
Okay.
But not, I assume it's probably, 1 in 20.
That's that's better odds than winning the lottery, right? 1 in 20, you might hit it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I had to call a poor seller once, and they had not bought title insurance. And, I gave her heart palpitations because there was an issue in the back title. And we had to be able to prove, because there was a $90,000 lien against a prior owner, that owner was married when he sold. And so we had to, of course, that title company was out of business. And we had to just kind of be investigators and be able to prove that seller was actually married when sold the property, meaning that lien didn't attach.
Wow. There's so many ins and outs. It's funny. I'm vaguely remembering. I had some clients once that we literally got to settlement, and the lady said, "Oh, well, something about my husband." And I looked at them and I'm like, "This isn't your husband? Like, you guys came together, everything together, signed together, took the loan together, and then all of a sudden at closing, she's like, something about my husband." So, I guess these things happen, and that's why title, and even it made me back up and go, gosh, you know what? I really have to maybe dig a little deeper with people. What you always see and what is actually legally happening on the back end may be different things, because marriage is a legal thing, and then there's relationships that function as marriages but aren't, right? So you have to really kind of step through all of that. Wow, really interesting. Have you ever had identity theft where someone just flat out was trying to step in, and you have?
100%. It was a land purchase.
Okay.
They were able to make a valid Florida driver's license that passed through all of our systems, with the actual name of the property owner, but their face. They took that to a notary in Texas.
Wow.
Signed everything as the seller, even, everything checked out, because, that's their face. That's the person. Later found out that the listing agent had never met this person in person. Like, all the red flags that we know now were there. She had never met them, only talked. They would actually talk on the phone. They were pretty brazen. I even texted the fraudulent seller. We got all the way through, it closed. So that buyer bought land,
Oh, wow.
didn't buy title insurance, and then didn't own it. So he was out like about $170,000.
Wow.
So he had to hire attorneys.
Yeah.
He the FBI had to get involved. It was a ring where they had convinced an older woman in Ohio, so it was multi-state, to open up the bank account in Florida,
Jeez.
and they were able to put a hold on that money in that account in Florida and get some of it back.
Wow.
But he was still out of pocket for attorney expenses and all of that. And then, so a quiet title action had to be done so that was the buyer. The actual owner of the property is an entire other person that had their property basically stolen from them.
They probably didn't even know this was all
They
happening.
didn't. And yeah, he lived in Maryland. It was a Virginia property. So it's all over, and they're getting very sophisticated.
How if someone does own land or property or a home now, is there what can homeowners or landowners do to prevent this? Anything?
No, you're going to see
I
there's
mean,
ads for title lock, but that basically they can only tell you after it's happened, after somebody has filed something, because there's no way for somebody to actually sit at the courthouse and guard your property. Because what and I learned this through this fraud case, is those clerks are just looking at one legal description to the next. If it matches, they're recording it. They're not looking at signatures. They're not looking at anything else. That's their process. And so things can get filed that are fraudulent.
and because everything's public record.
Yes. So what they're doing is they're looking for either homes or land that are unencumbered, meaning they don't have a mortgage on them. Because that's one way we could catch, during the process, oh, you don't know your loan number, you don't know,
Okay.
We would need the loan number and the social security number. But anyone that doesn't owe anything on a property, they could very well, if there was a way to get access to the property, it's a little more tricky. If there's an actual house that you need access to, but if it's land, it's a lot easier for them.
Wow. Super fascinating, honestly. I guess there's risks to everything in life, right? So
Yeah.
one reason not to pay off your mortgage, I guess.
Right? Yeah, to at least a little bit, just to secure it.
So going back to our original question, okay, so let's say there is fraud or forgery. What is the financial impact on the actual title insurer?
On the insurer, so they would have to pay out the claim. Meaning, so in this case,
So walk me through an example of that.
Sure. So in that land case, if the buyer had actually bought title insurance, he could have filed a claim and they would have given him his money back, essentially.
Okay, so the money he paid for the land that he never really bought, he would have gotten that back. He wouldn't have had his
Yes.
attorney's fees. He wouldn't have had the stress and headache of going through this
Yes.
process himself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, he would have been made whole without having to, find an attorney, hire the attorney, the title insurance attorneys just take over and basically just update the client as needed.
Okay. No, that's great to know. And so if you do buy, as a buyer, if you do buy title insurance, how does it work? I mean, my understanding is they get do they still do mailings where they're getting a packet of information? Because that's how it was when we bought. And then we just have it in a safe or in our safety deposit box, and it just sits there, and hopefully we never need to open that or use it. But what's the actual, how do they do it these days? Is it electronic or?
Now it's electronic.
Okay.
We use Qualia, so it's secure and you'll always have access to the portal. But if at any time you need it, we can email it to you again if you don't have that.
Okay. So as a
electronic copy.
buyer, if you need your title insurance, you would contact the company that closed your transaction. You would contact your
Correct.
title company. They can help you, right, connect with the title insurer.
Yeah, I
Okay.
still encourage everyone to download it. Just like we talked about on something earlier, title companies go out of business, and then you've got to go to the actual insurer. If you know or remember who that was, we underwrite through 2 insurers. So then even within Cardinal Title, you would have to know if it's Stewart or Old Republic, and then go directly to them to get a copy of your policy.
Okay. Really,
So
really
I encourage
important.
them to download it, maybe even print it out and keep a copy. I just sold myself, and I tell everyone, I literally teach a class about what not to pack, and I packed my policy.
Okay. So if you have a policy, can you pass that to the new buyers?
No, you're
Okay.
gonna, we're gonna do a fresh title search and you're gonna get your own new policy.
Okay. Now, let's say the home sale happened rather quickly. Is there a reduced rate that a new buyer can get on an insured policy?
So within 10 years, there is called a reissue rate if the seller has their policy.
Okay. So that's something that can be invested. And give us an idea. I don't, as a buyer, let's say I'm buying a $500,000 home in Fairfax County.
Mhm.
What price point would the title insurance policy be at?
So it's also dependent on your loan amount. Because if
Okay.
you buy both policies, you get the loan policy for $200. So I would say at 500, it's going to be around 2,500 to 3,000.
Okay. And what you mean by both policies is, again, when you're, to my buyers out there, when you're getting a loan, when you're buying a house with a mortgage or a loan, you are required as part of your closing costs to buy this policy, this title insurance policy for your lender. It's required. Then the option is for you to buy the policy for yourself. Right, Shauna?
That is correct. And if you buy your
So,
own policy, the lender's is now reduced to $200.
okay, perfect. So you might as well, because for that differential, then you have the coverage going on. All right, let's move on to our next slide here. So Shauna, do you want to talk a little bit about this? And it looks like things are with habitual fraud and forgery. Yeah.
So
So do you see the trend rising with all of this, with
absolutely,
technology?
since the
Yeah.
pandemic, we're not meeting people face to face, and we are taking more, online, meetings or just doing things via email and text. Now we can even have things notarized online, which that is actually our most secure way to have a seller sign because they have to go through a verification process, and it's one, where they're pulling information from their credit report. So that's very detailed, very specific, and that is one of the best ways to find somebody that's trying to, engage in fraudulent activity.
Is notary e-signing.
Yes.
So tell the viewers a little bit about that. I don't know if people are familiar with that. So, and I think too, it's very surprising to a lot of my clients that on closing day, they just have this vision of everyone sitting around a table. They're meeting the sellers, the buyers are meeting, and they're passing keys and there's handshakes, and that is just, we don't hardly ever see that anymore. Everything's separate, right? So at least in my world, buyers have their own day to close, sellers have their own time slot and or day to close, and like you said, now it may not even be in person. I think probably
Correct.
20% of my transactions this year, one of the parties were closing remotely.
Yes. And so only unless it's a cash transaction, only the sellers can do the online notary. Lenders still require an in-person signature. But yes, unless we make special arrangements, typically everyone is not at the table together anymore. And we encourage the sellers to sign early. It just means that we've got that prepped, ready to go. And then as soon as the buyers are done, we can start post-closing it and get it recorded, very timely that way. But yeah, so the process for a seller to e-sign, we typically want them to do it at least the day before, if not a few days before. We'll have everything ready. And, they'll log on with their camera, just like a Zoom. And the notary there will walk them through and have them sign electronically.
Mhm.
But they do have to go through that verification process. So if it's somebody that's not tech savvy or somebody that you think might have issues, it's always nice to for them to have somebody there with them to guide them through it.
Now, is that available in every state or just Virginia, where the sellers can sell remotely, can sign
Oh,
remotely?
yeah. So no, wherever they are, even if they're out of the country, they could e-sign that way.
Okay. I had some sellers once from Springfield, Virginia, but they were traveling in India and they ended up closing from India. So I thought that
Oh,
was really
nice.
neat.
Yeah. It's very convenient.
Yeah, it's super convenient. And I tell my clients, no matter where you are, if you're already moving, you're on the road, we can definitely accommodate you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very good. So we have a lot of things, a lot of forgery ticking up because we're not meeting in person. And to your point, Shauna, I, again, personally have had a couple of transactions where I've assisted sellers that I never really met in person. They call on the phone or they send an email or they find me online and they say, hey, we've moved out of the area. We've been renting this property. We'd like for you to go take a look. Can you help get the tenants out? What is it going to take to sell the home? Can we do everything remotely? And the answer is yes. You really can. So, I really rely on the title companies to ensure the identification process and that, the chain of title is clear and all that stuff. And that's why it's so important. In Virginia, at least, the buyers get to select the title company that is used in the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
The sellers can choose to use their own title company for their portion, but really the primary company, the one that goes on record, is the one that the buyers choose. So title selection is important. And just to Shauna's point, if you pick a small one, a lot of them go out of business. And then if you need to go back down the road, they may or may not be there to assist you. So Cardinal Title Group all the way, if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this piece here.
I'm trying to read claims and expenses.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This
4.4
is showing what
billion.
is happening. Claims are increasing because of the forgery and fraud. Um, and we're putting all these stopgap measures in, but on the file I was talking about, the Fairfax County Police Department had to hire somebody just for these forgery crimes. When I called her, the investigator, she had 6
Yeah.
others just in Fairfax County.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is causing a lot of loss. And like I said, if you don't have title insurance, it's going to be on you. Otherwise, it's going to be on the insurer. So there's a lot going on that you don't realize. So that's just one county, across the country. So of course, we have higher values here, but they're looking everywhere, to try to find those unencumbered properties with out-of-state buyers, or I'm sorry, out-of-state sellers. So what they're looking at is to see that, oh, this property's in Virginia, just like the one we had. They don't have a mortgage on the property. Oh, and look at the address that's filed. This seller lives in Maryland. So of course that sounds legit, oh, I'm all the way in Maryland. I can't come to meet you. Things like that.
I mean, and honestly, in our day and age where everything's quick and fast and everyone wants things done, people don't want to meet. I mean, I don't want to take the time out to go meet someone when I don't have to, because I can get so much more done, in those 2 or 3 hours. So I get it. I get where this is happening because life moves so quick now and you're under a lot of pressure to get this done, get that done, get this done, everyone fast. So that leaves room for mistakes and for errors to happen and for, cyber theft and all of this stuff. Also, we haven't even touched on the wire fraud, which I'm not sure if that's rolled into those numbers or not, but if you
most likely, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember a couple of years ago going to a class where they were talking about wire fraud and how when you're buying a home, you really have to be sure that when it's time to send in your funds, you are wiring your funds to the correct account and routing number because the cyber criminals, they're sending an email to the buyers that looks super legit. It looks like it's coming from the person it's supposed to. And it says, hey, so excited. You're closing in 3-4 days. It's time to send in your final funds. Here's the account and routing number. And the buyers are excited and they run out and in good faith, go to the bank and do what they're supposed to do. And then they come to find out that email was not from their title company. It was a fraudulent email. How often do you see this, Shauna, happening? Or, I mean, I know Cardinal Title Group has a very secure portal and everything is going through that. It's secure. But again, like you're talking about, there's small title companies out there that may not have all of these protections in place.
Oh, we see this very, very often. And what you'll see in these emails is a sense of urgency. And they're very pushy and they're saying, you have to send this now, you have to send this now. But I would say weekly, honestly, we're seeing,
Weekly?
yes,
Wow.
yes, because, just they could pretend to be me and instead of
Yeah.
an L, put a one or something that's very hard to find, they copy the email directly. And yeah, and we suggest all buyers just call us at
Yeah.
a number you've talked to us before and confirm those wire instructions. And of course, you're never going to send money to anything other than a legitimate company account. We've actually had buyers not thinking because they're in such a rush and they're scared that they're not going to get this house. And they've sent money to, John Smith in Philadelphia, and it's
Oh my
gone.
gosh.
There's no recourse because that money is moved out. Um, we had one buyer, she was buying in cash a $500,000 house and ended up having to get a loan because she sent all of her money
Oh my gosh.
to a criminal, essentially. And if she would have just calmed down, and just thought, like, just before you're sending it. And even I see now banks are also doing a few extra checks to make sure, and they also have, are you sending this to a title company? And just a few additional things to try to safeguard this, but
Yeah.
it still is happening. This is a huge issue. We also, this used to be more of a problem, but I think we've got this one down now.
Mhm.
We used to have people pretending to be your seller and emailing the title company just after closing and saying, "Oh, I know I gave you this bank account on the day of settlement. Really send the wire here."
Oh, tricky.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So that is something, and some people will find this to be a pain after settlement, but if you're not in our office sitting and smiling at us and
Yeah.
re-signing and having that notarized again, it's going to whatever you told us to go to
Yep.
at settlement. We're not going to take
Wow.
anything over email, calls, texts. We have to see your smiling face in front of us to change any kind of wire instructions. We
Yeah.
also have added security within our portal, so sellers can and are encouraged to upload their wire instructions before settlement, and then we can already check and make sure, run it through our system that that's a legitimate account, and
Mhm.
have everything almost kind of preset in our system to send that wire out securely.
I'm actually shocked to know this is happening weekly. I understand it's billions of dollars, and it's been billions of dollars for several years. But I
Mhm.
guess, like, to actually piece it out and think through, like, every single week this is happening to somebody. So
Mhm.
I always educate my buyers upfront. Day one, before we even have seen a house, I will tell
Oh,
them
good.
wire fraud is a thing. There's a disclosure we're going to have you sign today explaining what's going on and that we've reviewed this. And it's very easy not to fall into this trap if you know about it, right? As long as you
Right.
know this is happening. And when it's time for you to send in your money, all you have to do, like Shauna said, is you could even walk into any of the Cardinal Title offices and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, this is an email I got. Is it actually from you guys? Here's the account number and
Exactly.
routing number." Then you
Yes.
know 100% for sure because you are in person, and we have 35 offices that you could visit all across Northern Virginia and into some other states
Mhm.
to do that. Um, Also, you can call your agent. You can call into any of the Cardinal Title Group folks, but as a buyer, you really want to take that extra step just to make sure. Now, Shauna, if buyers are using Cardinal Title Group, they're getting instructions for wiring through the secured portal, correct? Not outside where it's just email to email. They have to go through what we call Qualia, which
Mhm.
is a like a secured portal. I don't know how else to explain it.
Exactly. So they're
Mhm.
each time to access any of that information, they're going to have to log in with their password. They create their own password, but they're going to need that password every time. No matter how much of a pain it is, it keeps you secure, knowing that we are never going to just email wire instructions to you.
So that would be red flag number one, is if you're getting wire instructions outside of the secured portal, which Shauna is
Exactly.
saying happens every single week. And the email makes you feel stressed and urgent. And like she said, like, oh, I'm going to lose my house if I don't do this in the next 3 hours, or if I don't rush to the bank right now. And you just need to slow down, call your agent, call Cardinal Title Group, make an appointment to go in, literally stand face to face with Shauna. I had folks the other day, I was at the office, and they were just wiring in their earnest money deposit. And they remembered everything I said about
Oh, good.
title fraud and, the issues that are going on. And I just happened to be at the office, and they walked in, and I was like, oh, what are you guys doing here? They said, we wanted to walk in and literally put our eyes on Deneen and make sure, when we did this. And I said, that's awesome. Great. Because thank God none of my clients have ever lost any of their money. But as soon as that money is wired to another account that's not the one it's intended to go to, it's completely gone. There's no way to get that back. There's no insurance to buy to protect against that. Shauna, how are the cyber criminals targeting? How do they find out that buyers are buying and tracking the deals? I mean, do you know? I'm not a cyber.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
they track agents' emails. So they're able to hack into different agents' emails and follow the process and know exactly when to send that email, knowing that we're close to settlement.
Wow. What can an agent do to prevent possibly their email from being hacked or followed or tracked?
I'm not sure what Samson's email system is, but I would get the most secure system, something that has three-factor authentication. Just to make sure that you're going to get that text if you're logged out, because that's what they're doing. They're logging into agents' emails. We had an entire team at my prior company get
Mhm.
hacked, and 3 instances happened within one team.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's scary.
It is scary. But again, buyers, don't be scared, because again, all you have to do is when it's time to send in money, just verify, re-verify, triple verify with your agent, the title company. You can walk in, talk to someone. As long as you have the right information, it can't be stolen out of thin air, right? As it's being wired. It's that you're putting down the wrong number to send it to.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a number off, just by
Mhm.
accident, especially with the routing number, it's going to bounce back to you, because that's something, that banks see and they're used to. But if you're putting a legitimate other bank account of somebody
Mhm.
that's, trying to steal your money, then it is going to go through.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's so prevalent that we've talked to the FBI, and they are only even investigating. They only have the manpower to investigate these instances when they're over $500,000. So anything under that amount, they don't even have the manpower to try.
So, Shauna, how many times have you had to deal with the FBI?
Oh, every time we have to file a report.
Wow.
So many times.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they have a report on their website just for this tells you.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so definitely you want to, as a buyer, when you're selecting your title company, it's super important. You're picking a company that is going to be around, that has secured portals, that has multiple offices that you can access. It's a big part of your decision, and it's a line item that goes on your offer when you're writing your offer. There's
Mhm.
actually a line item where your agent will write in the title company that you're choosing to use. So please consider Cardinal Title Group for all of these reasons and more. I'm definitely a big fan of them being with Sampson Properties. And Shauna, is there any closing remarks you wanna share, or any special stories you want to highlight? Or thank you so much for being here with us today. I think we've
Of course.
gone through all of our slides, but if there's anything else you want to discuss, we're happy to give you the open floor just to close out.
Absolutely. I would just say, you and I, we see this a lot, and we see these transactions a lot, but we understand that buyers and sellers probably do this once every 10 years. So
Yep.
everything has changed again for you, and it's not like your last transaction, and there are new rules and new ways that people are tricking you. So make sure you use a professional like Elizabeth, that can guide you through it, that is doing this every day, and we see what's going on. And like I said, the industry changes all the time, and rules change, and the way that people are trying to, conduct fraud changes because they they go around what we're doing. And so always
Right.
use a professional to guide you through this, because we do it every day, and we know you aren't most people, it's once every 10 years.
Well said. Shauna, thank you again so much for your time. I'll let you get back to the FBI.
Yeah.
I know you're busy.
Hopefully not.
But yes, thank you everyone for tuning in. So buyers out there, please just make sure wherever you are, if it's Northern Virginia, give me a call so we can work together. Or if it's elsewhere, again, I'm happy to connect you with someone who will make sure you don't fall into forgery, wire fraud, all of that stuff. It's just very, very important. Happy to connect you with a professional wherever you are. So please subscribe to the show. We're going to wrap it up for today. Hopefully y'all found that interesting. I certainly did. I always learn something on my own show, which is very cool for me. So I am Elizabeth Ann Kline, happy to help you with purchasing or selling in Northern Virginia. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you all next time.
When you're ready to